France has accused Australia of breaking the relationship of trust between the two countries during the first phone call between Scott Morrison and Emmanuel Macron since the submarine contract was scrapped. Let's go live to Jonathan Lee in Canberra. Jonathan, very interesting to note, the briefing notes that come out, well, quite different if you compare Australia's to France's.
Tom, I think it's very clear that Australia's relationship with France at present remains firmly scuttled. We're also learning a lot more about the efforts our government has gone to repair the relationship, with Scott Morrison actually penning a personal letter to the French President Emmanuel Macron. The French President phoning our Prime Minister last night before he departed to the G20, delaying his departure, I believe, by some 30 minutes. They had what was discussed, or what was called, a very candid discussion. Of course, it comes some 6 weeks after the Australian government announced we were dumping the $90 billion submarine deal for 12 French attack-class submarines, causing a widespread outcry. It saw us get a firm dressing down from the European Union about trust, and also the French ambassador criticising us equally. But we'll see if we can show you a part of what was said last night and what has been briefed to the media, with France certainly calling on Australia to do more. We see it on the screen now. President Macron recalled that Australia's unilateral decision to scale back the French-Australian strategic partnership broke the relationship of trust between our two countries. And it was certainly put on Australia that we need to do more to rebuild that relationship. France also made sure that they hit us where it hurts, and that comes with our carbon emissions. With Emmanuel Macron, and this wasn't put in the Australian briefing notes, but it was put in the notes from the Elysee Palace, making it clear that they believed Australia needed to do more to reduce carbon emissions by ceasing consumption and the production of coal, perhaps our second largest export. This is what Josh Frydenberg had to say, our Treasurer, when it was put to him this morning on Sky News.
It wants us to cease consumption and production of coal at national level and abroad. What do you make of that? Is that a non-starter?
Well, Australia has just outlined its plan for net zero by 2050. That's a significant step forward. And as you know, we've reduced our emissions by more than 20% since 2005. And at the same time, our economy's grown by more than 45%. You know, we're walking the talk when it comes to reducing our emissions.
So there'll be a big repair job required here. It's good that the Prime Minister is at least having a conversation.
Meanwhile, Jonathan, the PM is preparing to take the emissions plan to the world stage. He's also, though, left a message for farmers back home.
Yeah, that's right. The Prime Minister obviously going from Rome with the G20 through to the COP Climate Summit in Glasgow. But while he's trying to sell the message over there, he's also trying to settle it locally, made more difficult by what Barnaby Joyce had to say yesterday, talking about carve-outs. There is now a clear division between the Nats and the senior Liberals over what exactly has been agreed. But Scott Morrison telling regional voters and farmers through the Daily Telegraph event summit today that they are listening, they are acting, and that the bush won't be impacted.
Our plan for net zero doesn't force our farmers to do anything more than what you're already doing and will be choosing to do in the future. And we won't be asking the states or territories to use their powers under our plan for 2050 to regulate the way you use your land. We trust you as being the best stewards of your land. Our government wants Australian farmers to be able to choose how they use their land to get the highest and best outcomes.
Yeah, it seems some irony there, Tom, isn't it? That the Prime Minister's talking about farmers knowing what's best for their land and the government not telling them what is best, with farmers being outraged that a lot of their land was prevented from being used for land clearing or other purposes in order to reduce Australia's carbon emissions as a result of Paris. So obviously a lot of frustrations there. I don't know whether farmers will necessarily buy it, but it's certainly a message the Prime Minister is selling.